हम शांघाई बनाएंगे और हम सिंगापुर हो जाएंगे, नहीं होने वाले सालो. You have a huge population who cannot afford this much. You don't have that kind of money. So बजट खत्म करने के लिए जैन फेब में लोग शुरू करते हैं डिगिंग. पहले रोड्स डिपार्टमेंट डिग करता है, इलेक्ट्रिकल डिपार्टमेंट डिग करता है, वाटर डिपार्टमेंट डिग करता है, फिर सुएज ड्रेनेज डिपार्टमेंट डिग करता है. सो what they're doing is they are spending the money 4 times, but they have to spend that budget. Otherwise, they don't get a budget. If you don't spend, you do not get that same amount of money back the next day.
मतलब being a property consultant, real estate, मैं बोलूँगा बिक गया.
Understand the tarha of living in a city. Pune के लोग नहीं है ये. These are people who come outside of Pune. And no, there's gundayari happening on the streets, and they're breaking them, I think, out of desperation. No, we are victimized. I mean, I would like to see some planning document. No, going to have 10 million people by 2035. Okay, where do you have a ward-wise density map? The road widths are not going to change. It is in the citizens' hands to ensure that they live a good life. You voted for that government, right? So buildings are going vertical, but the road widths are not changing. We need more managers, people who've learned management.
What does planning really mean in an Indian city context?
आज हमारे गेस्ट है लॉरेंस सिद्धार्थ बेनिंजर. He is the Director, Institute of Sustainable Development, CDSA, Pune, Fellow of the Special Program for Urban and Regional Studies, MIT, Cambridge. He is a strategist with 15 plus years of experience advising UN agencies, governments, and civic organizations.
Siddhartha,
Thank you for having me.
what does planning really mean in an Indian city context?
Planning in an Indian city context. So, I think the first thing is that we should understand what planning is. And so, planning is a set of frameworks and protocols and rules that we apply to a settlement to ensure that that settlement achieves one, a vibrant economy, and two, a great quality of life, and three, a standard of living, right? So, in the Indian city context, I think planning as a practice is agnostic in the sense of it applies similar rules to every city or town. But of course, it works within the context of that city or town. So when you talk about Pune or say Indian cities have a particular unique structure, very much like European cities in some senses, because they are old cities. So there is an old part of that town, of that city. In many cases, it's walled. In many cases, it will have certain cultural aspects. It will have some religious structure. It will have a market, and it will have some kind of administrative structure. And then around that, you'll have the housing and the shops and stuff like that. Plus, Indian architecture is also very unique in the sense that we used to have the Wada system, especially in Pune. So, in your Wadas, you would have the shop in the front, and then you would have the house behind, or the shop below and the house on top. So, in this case, so that brings a uniqueness of land use, which is true for Europe as well. It happens in Europe as well. So, I think the Indian context, when you talk about Indian context, I think it's more about maintaining cultural aspects, maintaining your identity. But where it comes to, say, efficiencies, creating efficiencies, which planning aims to do, creating more jobs, improving that quality of life. So I'll give you an example. So if we try to maintain the WADA system, which is very beautiful, by the way, but if we try to maintain it, then we would not have these setbacks, which are now a norm in Indian cities. So if you're building a structure, you need certain setbacks because that is enabling fire, like access for fire safety. Then you have, it's airy. There is less spread of disease because your structures are not close together, so people are not living close together. So there is less contagion. So there are there's a certain logic behind why certain rules are now made, which were not followed before. So I feel the only thing I can actually draw out is that there has to be, say, a respect for the culture and a respect for the demography. So that would be the way people have to live. So there might be lower income people, and I feel that when we plan, we are in danger of actually not thinking about vulnerable populations, etc. So I feel in India there are a lot of vulnerable populations. There's slums, there are homeless, there are people living in chawls. So all of this has to be taken into consideration. So I think that is one very unique part of Indian planning.
So when you say the culture of any society, so every city in India at least, have its own flavor. हर सिटी का अपना एक फ्लेवर
Yeah.
होता है, बट आज का जो प्लानिंग है वो फ्लेवर को मैच कर रहा है क्या? बिकॉज एनीवेयर यू गो, हर सिटी एक जैसा दिखने लग गया है.
नहीं वही
टॉल बिल्डिंग, स्काई स्क्रैपर्स, ग्लास फसाड.
करेक्ट. सो वही होता है बिकॉज इट्स एन एफिशिएंट वे ऑफ so वो planning नहीं. Okay, first of all I'll tell you that the thing is that when we plan we do 4 major things. Okay, the first thing is we take care of land use. So we decide on how the land should be used. So you could call it land use regulation for that town or village. The second thing is, so then the land uses are like residential, commercial, industrial, and there are certain rules that you follow. You don't keep industrial near residential. You look at wind directions and stuff like that and decide how you want to place your various uses. You want mixed, so there is a new thing for, so mixed was always old, like I talked about the VADA system. So you had your shops outside and then you had a house. So it was mixed land use, that was commercial and residential. Now
तो आज के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में जो नीचे रिटेल बना के 2-4 फ्लोर ऑफिस बना के ऊपर रेसिडेंशियल बनाते
correct,
हैं,
so that is
we
like a
call it
mix.
mixed use.
Right, and so that mixed use actually is a better, more efficient way of using land instead of pure residential, pure commercial. Because what people started noticing in central business districts, especially in the United States, that everybody would come in the morning to work in the central big business district, in the CBD, and in the evening everybody would leave, and so that district would become like a dead zone, and then it became dangerous. So there was no security. Where anybody was walking alone, they could get mugged, so these were certain dangers. So in response to that, they kind of went back to a mixed use kind of a thing. And maybe later on I'll talk about how mixed use is more useful for providing services and facilities very close by to people. So but that's one thing, land use. The second thing is we also regulate density. So how many people can stay in 1 acre, right?
How many people
Can stay in 1
can
acre.
stay or should stay?
So should stay, there is an ideal, and that ideal has not actually been studied. There is no real one number, magic number that says
Worldwide? Or
worldwide there is no magic number. People say that they want higher density. Higher density in the Indian context, and so this is a unique Indian contextual thing. Europeans and Americans, when they go for high density, they are going for maybe 600 people per hectare, maybe even up to 1,000 people per hectare. But in the Indian context, we already have 1,000, 2,000 people per hectare. So when you say densify more, no, we don't want to densify more. Right? We want to keep it below whatever, even 2,000 is a lot. Like in a slum, you'll have 2,000-3,000 people per hectare. Right? So you don't want that. That's hyper dense.
so just for context, per hectare is 2.5 acre, 1 lakh square feet approximately.
Yeah. So in 1 lakh square feet, you're putting 1,000 or 2,000 people in that. So that's how many? I think 10-20 square feet per person.
Okay.
Right? So that's not, I don't think that would be, I think that would be like tight as a fit. So in India, when you define an urban place, you define it by 3 measures. It has to have a minimum population of 5,000. This is the census definition, right? So it has to have a minimum population of 5,000 people. It has to have a density of 400 people per hectare, and it's 2/3 of its male working population has to be in the secondary or tertiary sector. Why they've got that male working population?
I was about to.
Yeah, but it's a bit not gender sensitive according to me. But so when we say it, we say main working population. So 2/3 cannot be in your primary sector, which is agriculture, fisheries, this kind of thing. It should be in either manufacturing or services, right? And so that's the definition. So when you follow that definition, I pack up 5,000 people, I ensure 400 people per hectare, and I ensure that 2/3 of the population is not working in the fields or wherever, and I've got a city. But that does not entail a city. So there are various services that have to be provided. So the idea of urban is also very...
Idea of
urban is very... it's not yet understood properly, according to me, as a teacher also. I also teach planning. So what I feel is that defining exactly what is needed is extremely important. But going on with what I was saying, so land use planning, density planning. So density also entails, once you decide your density, you understand how many cars, how many bikes there will be, what kind of parking you require, how much sewage is going to be produced, how much water supply needs to be provided, how much energy needs to be provided. So all your services and everything are based on how many people live there, and then you do a per person kind of a measurement, and then you provide those services. It's not necessarily that you provide exactly that per person. That's the minimum. Then you can provide more than that. So that gives you what your minimum requirement is. So density also defines that. So even your sewage pipe gauge is based on how many people are living there, because it's based on how much needs to be carried out. So there are various, even your solid waste management is based on that. So if you start giving denser, higher, taller, nice looking, I mean, that's what people think, that taller is better. But sadly, you are putting a bigger boj, more weight on the services that need to be provided. And the problem is that there is no, so though you might be getting a permission to do a big building, it's not necessary that the city is providing all the services for that big building. I think Kharadi is a great case in point, where the water is not supplied. People are taking tankers, but I'm sure they are paying property tax where they have a water tax component. So they have the right to actually receive direct water supply, not through tankers.
Most of the locations in Pune.
So this is becoming a big problem. So density control. And so density control, the mechanism to do it is FSI. In America, they call it FAR, floor area ratio. Here we call it floor space index. So density control is extremely important. I mean, that is your, it's like the DNA. And then we do development control rules, like your unified DCR and stuff. So those rules are how you construct the buildings, what materials you use, stuff like that. Those get into the more technical details of how to make a building, what setbacks you can have, what height is allowed, etc., etc. And those are contingent, or those are based on, they're logical, they're based on certain considerations. Like I said before, that there is a setback. It's so that a fire vehicle can come for fire safety, or an ambulance can come into that building or whatever. So that's why there is a reason why those setbacks have been created. So those are your DCR, so development control rules. Then you have transport, circulation. So you're talking about sewage, drainage, passengers, like people moving people around, moving water around, moving waste materials around. So that is your fourth element of planning. And then the fifth element of planning, which is extremely important, is actually what I think it stares us in the face, but we don't realize it. It is the most obvious thing. So if anybody hears me say this, they're going to say, wo to chahiye, which is your economy. You want your city to be making profits, right? And you want an export surplus. So I think one big problem is over here, we do not look at export surplus in the way that we are supposed to. There are certain measures that need to be taken. There is something known as economic base analysis, or there's something known as shift share analysis. These can get very tedious, and people can, but the idea is that there is no reporting on these. And there has to be at least every 2-year report, every 5-year report on what the situation of the city's economies, like Pune's economies. So I think these are 5 things that need to be understood in planning. So when planners plan, they are essentially looking at these 5 things. There is a bigger plan, which is known as a regional plan. And all planning is based on something known as MR, like in Maharashtra, it's based on this legislation called Maharashtra Regional and Town Planning Act, or MRNTP. And so there is also, so when you plan it, you finish it, there is a protocol on how the democratic system works to pass the plan, which is written in that MRNTP. And then once it's passed by the general body, say in Pune, it will be the general body that passes it. General body is made up of your elected representatives. And so once they pass it, it's passed, it's law. So what people don't realize in many cases, it's a law. So if they say, wo kya hai, thoda wo badal, ye kar, wo kar, no, there's no adjustment, it's a law. And the problem is then that the laws break, because there are vested interests, and there are millions of brains that are thinking, mere ko ye chahiye, mere ko wo chahiye. And that's how then we start having problems, which we see.
So when you एक urban planning का plan करते हैं, कितने साल का horizon लेके plan करते हैं?
Normally 20 साल का horizon कम से कम चाहिए.
Okay.
I would go for
का last कब हुआ था?
पूना का लास्ट
बिकॉज
अभी हुआ है।
इफ यू गो बैक टू 90s के अंदर जो
87 का प्लान था।
ओके 87 के प्लान के अंदर वी डिड नॉट हैव आईटी रेवोल्यूशन हैपनिंग इन पुणे।
एग्जैक्टली।
आईटी आया, पूना ने बहुत सारा इन्फ्लक्स लाया लोगों को,
विच इज फाइन।
Yeah. तो वो जो प्लानिंग है, यू सेड कि डेंसिटी प्लान करना है, तो जो इन्फ्लक्स आया उसको फिर सपोर्ट करने के लिए अमेंडमेंट ये।
So that is the whole point. So I mean, you can make an Excel sheet. You can say इतना population बढ़ाना है, and you can just put these multiplier numbers and say कम से कम इतना।
let's go back to 90s। एक्सेल शीट था ही नहीं तभी, कैसा प्लान
तू
होना
कागज पे लिखेगा ना। No, but the thing is, that is the thing.
Nobody knew कि कितना इन्फ्लक्स आएगा।
No, you could. There are ways of actually we do demographic analysis.
See, like you said कि economic survival।
So we do forecast.
Export। हाँ।
So there are population forecasts. So nobody expected the explosion into cities, in Indian cities, and sadly it's only 8 or 9 cities where the real explosion has taken place. In particular, Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, then Bangalore. Bangalore, the situation is quite bad now. And then you also have Pune now.
Close to Bangalore now.
Yeah, exactly. But it's still, I've heard it's not as bad as Bangalore.
That is why I said close to Bangalore.
Bangalore people are complaining a lot about what's happening. Because there's water, there's dearth of water. So that's another point I was going to come to, which is you look at your carrying capacity. You look at whether that city can carry this population. So you don't just give permission. So the thing is, sadly, that the government is supposed to, or your city authorities give the permission to build a building. So I'm a builder. I'm a real estate developer. I'm doing that. I am that animal. I am supposed to go ahead and develop real estate and sell it.
मुझे permission मिला, मैंने बना दिया.
So it is the city's job to say that नहीं है अब capacity. रुक जा, नहीं देने वाले permission.
कौन बोलेगा?
It has to be initially the city engineer who gives that final permission.
Municipal corporation.
But that engineer is also representing who? The people. Right? So it is important that, but I don't think there are any measures. I have not seen any measures looking at Pune city's carrying capacity, and they're saying that, itna pani hai or itna piping. Kharadi is a good example. There's no infrastructure yet. Otherwise, they would not need tankers. Now, when we give a building permission, we ensure that we are giving all these site services. Water supply, drainage, sewage, all of those things are supposed to be, there are development charges that are levied on the realtor, right? So the idea is that once you have paid the development charge, the city it's like a plug and play model. Ideally, it should be like a plug and play model. They will give you all these services, you plug them in, boom, your building is ready, your services are running, and you have paid for it. But that's not happening. So then there is no capacity. That is my argument. That if a city cannot, and I'm not saying it's like a blame game or something, nahi hai abhi, I can't do it. Like tomorrow, if I tell somebody who earns 2 lakhs a month to start spending 4 lakhs a month, it's impossible. And that's where the earning point comes, where the city is supposed to earn. So I teach urban economics, and that is the idea. Like that is how do you ensure that you are employing enough people, that you are beautifying the city to attract more people. But then after a point, so I think what has happened is there has been this mindset of like the seasons change. People will keep coming. Okay, buildings will keep being made. Then people will keep coming and buildings will keep being made. So there are certain economic factors like oversupply, okay, which brings down price. We are all surprised as students of economics that the prices have not fallen. So when you look at constructed units, okay, we have, I think there was a study done in 2013, 2011 by Mr. Sharat Mahajan, who passed away sadly. So he, through Mashal, they had done a housing stock survey, and they had realized that there are about 100,000 empty houses.
Which year?
Unsold.
Which year?
It was done 13. So now today we don't even know, and we've seen it. When we go around, say Hinjawadi,
being a property consultant, real estate, मैं बोलूँगा बिक गया 2013 का.
Exactly. But the problem is, in reality, is that okay, if they all got filled up with people, is there enough water supply? Are there?
See, occupancy, planning, infrastructure are two different things.
Actually, they are the same thing. Because you get occupancy.
I get occupancies. मतलब the city could not provide me water. I got tanker.
No, but that is the problem. So what has happened is the city should make a rule that no, you can't get tanker. The city has a rule that you can't get tanker. Actually, not tanker, but the rule is originally you're paying a development charge now. So this is what is happening. The person who gives the permission for that building to even happen has to ensure that you are one paying the developer. So many people are saying, "ठीक है, ले ले development charge." Okay, नहीं मिला तो नहीं मिला. So then who's the other person who's responsible? It's the citizen. It is the house buyer who has to ensure that नहीं tanker होगा तो मैं नहीं लूंगा तेरा flat. Okay, you're making me pay crores of rupees, lakhs of rupees to buy this flat. I am not going to buy it. I want all my facilities and services through the government as they're supposed to be, as every normal citizen actually gets them. So this is a very important consideration for home buyers. First of all, they're paying inflated prices. That's, I mean, as an economist, I'm saying, right? But okay, that's also fine. But my thing is, so there is the thing is, like I was saying, I was earlier mentioning that the realtor is one animal, the government is another animal, the buyer is another animal. Everybody has their responsibilities and everybody has their need to get something more out of what is possible. So for a realtor, he's going to try to get maximum profit. Okay, for the government, ideally in a ideal world, they will want to protect their plan, which they have made, which is the law. So they'll want to ensure that all the pieces are in place and everybody's following the rules.
So you said protecting the law.
The government has to protect the law.
Protect the law.
Yeah.
And there is always some minor tweaking, testing happening. So if
they're pushing the limits.
If you can give me one example from city center, Deccan area के पास और कोई भी एक सबब जहाँ पे
law break किया है यानी limit push की है. What I call it is there is a push of the limit. चलो देखेंगे क्या होगा देख लेंगे. Okay. Sadly, what has happened is that now in say center of the city, sorry. In the center of the city, you have very high density, right? So
when you say center of city, is that paid areas or TPS or Deccan area?
TPS, so Pates and I'll consider Deccan as the center.
Okay.
Right. And so now the morphology is different. Pates are buildings side by side lage hue hai. There is very little setback and stuff like that. So in Pates, there is a setback rule. So and they have eased on the rules for Pates. High density hai, so they have eased on the rules. They are not saying you have to set back everywhere. But even then, in the Pates, certain setbacks are not followed, or there are very little setbacks. 1 meter bhi nahi hoga, like 2 foot setback hota hai. So I mean, I to ask them why build a wall? Na, let it be open on the road. It chalta hai. It's not a big deal. But either way, they have walls and stuff. So so that's one thing. So setbacks are not followed. And what engineer? I mean, the PMC doesn't have 3,000 engineers. 5,000 engineers running around taking a measuring tape and checking everybody's setback. So that is one very common thing where they will just, they'll play around with that. It's fine, I guess. If you are near a road, say the main reason for a setback. So what's the logic behind the setback? Fire engines can move in, right? To get around a building so that they can, protect the people and stop a fire. Yeah. And, or when you want to say, if there's an earthquake, you want to escape the building. But then again, there should be enough light coming into the house. So that's why also you want to separate the building. So there's enough sun ray coming through. The next thing is that it's airy. There is air playing. So when you open the windows, you have this cross circulation and stuff like that. So there are some considerations. I mean, it's not just setback lagana hai, laga do. So, but the thing is that wherever it's useful, it's useful. So, okay, pet areas, that's a big problem. Over here, the problem is mainly...
Here means Deccan area.
In Deccan area, where we are sitting in Deccan. In Deccan area, the thing is that what they've done is they have played around. So there is this very famous, I don't remember the names and I shouldn't give names either way. But near Symbiosis School on 15th Lane, Prabhat Road, right? There is a structure that I think the person who built it, they thought that permission mil jayega, okay, and they have overbuilt that building far more than what the FSI was. I think the FSI was 1.5 max, and they built like 2-3, right? Now it's gone up. So I think they thought, like in the future it will go up. So then they'll grandfather. So this is kind of a push which is happening over here. So then they went higher, and then that building now looks like a ugly. It stopped. There was a whole stop. Building was seized by the PMC. Now it's being used as a school. It's a ugly building because there is nothing being done on it, because PMC is not spending money on maintaining the building in that sense. There is a school. I am worried for the children because it's like I think it's a 7-story, 8-story building, huge building, and ऊपर के जो floors है, there are no. I mean, if you go, you can fall over. Like there's no embankment, nothing, because they stopped it. So now this is a example of over here on this side what has happened. Another example is where you have a certain road width, which is say 6 meters, right? So there are certain permissions for certain. So this is all development control rules, which I had mentioned earlier, right? Or the unified now UDCR, everybody's talking about that. Okay, so there are certain rules concerning the width of the road and how much you can go, right? How high you can go. There's also width of the road and FSI. So there are many.
I think there are 3 things: width of the road, side margin, and height.
Height, right?
Along with FSI.
Along with FSI, and that controls. Now, the idea is development control. So it controls. So now, of course, then if you're a realtor and you're pushing for profits, you want to go that little inch more. 1 foot over here in this place in Deccan, 1 foot is 16,000. 1 square foot is 16,000 rupees. So if you build 10 extra square feet at 16 lakhs, no 1.6 lakhs. If you build 100 square feet, it's 16 lakhs of rupees. Okay, 100 square feet is 16 lakhs. So
plus government charges.
Yeah. So it's crazy actually, right? So now what happens is, so that now if you are looking at that kind of profit for putting on 100, they'll push it to 100 square feet extra. They'll make that 16 lakhs more. So in this case, what they'll do is they'll make it either higher or they'll play around with the setback.
But in this TPS scheme, these were all bungalows?
They were all bungalows.
6 meter, 9 meter, 12 meter ke road.
The roads which were planned in a particular way based on the density of the bungalow. So now if you have a bungalow, you're going to have 1 family living in that bungalow, maybe 2 families living, maximum maybe 12 people. So you are talking about 1 bungalow on like 1/4 of an acre. So you're getting 4 bungalows on 1 acre. So that is on a hectare, it's 2.4. So you're getting say 12 bungalows on a hectare, right? Okay, 14 bungalows on a hectare. So
with a density of 150.
That's 150. Now, by your definition of urban, that doesn't come under urban, because it's, then what is that, right? That's still urban, that's in the city. So this is a very, following a definition which, I mean, you have to understand what urban means before you, this is a stupid way of following what urban means. Like if you start having an idea of, हम Shanghai बनाएंगे और हम Singapore हो जाएंगे, नहीं होने वाले तुम. You don't have that kind of money, you don't have that kind of, you have a huge population who cannot afford this much, right? So you have to do it in that context and you want a better plan. So we actually are big supporters of town planning schemes, right? Most planners will, I mean, most self-respecting planners will say so town planning schemes are a good way to go, but they are very hard to pull off because they are more of a green field project, less of a brown field. So if there's any existing structures and settlement, it's very hard to actually, you can do it, you can pool the land and you can redistribute it. That's how it works. So in this case, so they are bungalow plots. So that's why the road hierarchy was set in a particular way, which was for a low density neighborhood. So your roads were also narrower. So you had 6, 8, 10, 12 meters.
6, 9 and 12 meter, I guess.
Yeah, and then they vary also if you move in the lanes and stuff like that. So let's say from 6 to 12 meters, right? And so then in road hierarchies also, this which is, I was talking about the 4th part which we plan for cities, which is the circulation and movement and stuff. So you have the road hierarchy. So you'll go with like a footpath, you'll go to cycle track, then you can go on to small roads like a 6 meter, 4 meter road. So those are gullies or lanes. Then in Marathi we call border, okay? And then you can go to higher. So you can go all the way up to something known as arterial roads, which are huge roads like 60 meter even. Like if you go, you can have that space But the thing is, so they're like arteries of the city. Then there are sub-arterials and collectors and distributors. Like there's many types. Okay, so this town planning scheme, under that they had planned this. There is also like a gridiron pattern. The streets are more crisscross instead of just like all over the place, right? So there is also like, so that's another part of planning. We look at how to morph the city structure, like how to change it so that it takes place in a more symmetrical, better for traffic, that kind of way. Okay, so now they had planned for low density, 150 people, 200 people per hectare. They have now gone to high density, which is going to around 6 to 800 people per hectare.
Maybe 1500.
Now 1500 because of
Maybe
the ugly monstrosities that they're allowing to be built.
Monstrosity.
Yes, monstrosity.
इसको हिंदी में बोलना प्लीज.
Monstrosity को हिंदी में क्या शब्द है यार? क्या होता है monstrosity? राक्षस बिल्डिंग.
मैं लेने वाला.
अरे वो है ना, बहुत गंदी बिल्डिंग है. हाँ. And I think it's 18, 20 floors, right? So now you've kept the road the same, right? Once you keep the road the same, and you did how many? 20. So 20 into 2, 40. You've increased density by 40 times. Population density. 2 families were supposed to be there. Now there are 40 odd families living there. So,
or let's say in a bungalow there were 10, 12 people staying. Now suddenly 150 people are staying.
more.
Same plot के ऊपर.
More. 300 people are staying. So what's happened is that many more cars, that many more bikes, that much more sewage. Okay, that's that much more shit. Okay, then that much more water supply, that much more electrical supply. So many things actually come into that, where and that's where we look at capacities, and that's where we say that you have to regulate and control development. Development control, like. So the idea is that where you're saying, nahi, we meet this demand for all these facilities and services, right? What they look at, so again, city should make profit, city should make money. So they are looking at one, which is the revenue side, कि इतने लोग आ गए कि इतना टैक्स मिलेगा, इतना क्या बोलते हैं,
property tax आएगा,
ये सब the whole thing then it unfolds, right? So it's like a city is also. So I don't think a city should always have a business mentality in that sense. They should have a tax collection mentality, it's fine, but they should not have a profit seeking mentality, because then this is what happens. Because once you have a profit seeking mentality, then all you're looking at is how can I maximize my profit at the cost of anything else,
at the cost of
quality of life,
unplanning,
quality of life. So this unplanned, okay, it's not unplanned, it's basically planned without any structure. There are forecasts. Okay, so they'll give Pune forecast. We will have 10 million people by 2035. Okay, where in Pune? It's a big city, right? Where are these populations going to be distributed? Do you have a ward-wise density map? It's easy to make. I have. That's what we do. So the thing is that have a density map. Look at what kind of, so per population there are minimum requirements for everything. Put the multiplier. Multiply everything with that population, you will understand how much water you need, quantum of water, quantum of sewage, quantum of you need. I'm telling you, you need schools, you need hospitals, you need clinics, you need
parks,
community centers, you need parks, you need. I mean, it's a big endeavor. Running a city is a big endeavor, and I don't think they are not skilled, but I don't think they are respecting their own rules. Let's put it that way. And if they want to innovate, I'm calling it innovation. If they want to innovate, then they have to really think about how they want to change these rules. If they're increasing the density so much, before they give these permissions, they have to figure out a way to supply services and utilities and stuff like that, which they will get into a problem. Because like we say, thembe thembe tade sache. They are now, this is what's happening in the cities, that Mumbai is a great example. It is overcrowded, nothing's working, there is traffic, getting around from one part of Mumbai to another can take up to an hour, 2 hours even. So, and Pune, it has started now. And so, this is the danger. And I think, so then, at the end of the end, this is the conclusion we came to as planners. It is in the citizens' hands to ensure that they live a good life. They cannot say that the government is like this and you voted for that government, so then you can demand things from that government. So you go ahead and demand those things, and there are ways and means, and that government is not some evil being that is going to stop you from doing that. They are there to help you. I work with a lot of elected representatives. I work with the PMC. These are approachable people. So the thing is, but then those citizens have to be aware of what they want and what they don't want. And I think that is a big problem. That is a big mismatch. And so I feel that more awareness amongst the citizenry is extremely important when it comes to how people plan. I mean, this is logical. What I'm saying is a no-brainer. 10 log ho gaye, 135 liters per person per day. So that means 1,300 liters per person per 10 people per day. Simple. These are multiplication. Use your logic. Na? If you've got bungalows, like in this area, you had bungalows before. Now you've increased the population 10 times across the board. My God. So it will be crazy if you can imagine. And the road widths are not going to change. Right? So buildings are going vertical, but the road widths are not changing. So imagine the traffic jams which have started. People in Deccan will completely agree. In fact, people everywhere around the city will agree that traffic has blown up. So now another thing is that I have a big problem कि Pune का traffic. Salo, Pune के लोग नहीं है ये. Okay, so these are people who've come outside of Pune. I don't blame them. They've come, they've migrated, they're finding jobs. Please follow traffic rules. Please understand the tarha of living in a city and driving a vehicle in a city. It's a different tarha. So you need to have that respect for that mulk, that city, which is like a mulk, and follow their rules. So this is another thing.
Good educated people are breaking traffic rules.
No, that is very sad. And they're breaking them, I think, out of desperation.
And traffic rule break to kar rahe hain, and we are taking pride in it.
Exactly.
And we get victimized when we are stopped.
No, we are victimized. And no, and there's gundagardi happening on the streets. Now, I'm a big guy, so I can deal with it. Okay, but like, I can imagine other people, they can't deal with that. But either way, yeah. So that is one example, that where you have planned for a lower density, but you're giving permissions for a higher density. So you've got a mismatch, and you have not really, I mean, I would like to see some planning document, no? I mean, we should ask, do you have a planning? You're giving these permissions.
Who should we ask to? किसको पूछना चाहिए?
We need to ask the city authority. So I can go and ask the water supply department. I can ask all of these guys.
Is there any government website जहाँ पे मैं जाके ये सब check कर सकता हूँ?
You can go to the PMC website. They have data, but
See, I have my everyday
हाँ.
का काम. My priorities in life are different. तो मैं PMC में या फिर कोई भी municipal governing body में जाके application करूँ, ये करूँ, वो करूँ, हो नहीं सकता. तो is there any place, some website जहाँ पे as a citizen I can go and I can check what I am getting in the city?
No, there's no such website. Okay. I mean, the PMC website, the official Pune Municipal Corporation website is there. You can get certain information on it. Okay.
So it can be PMC, it can be PCMC, it can be PMRD.
Yeah. But the problem is that it's not necessary that you're going to get all the information that you require, or the information is going to be useful, or it's going to be user friendly. For instance, they have a data website where you get nice data sets actually. Of facilities in Pune, this in Pune, that. But it sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work. But if you download it, you will be downloading an Excel sheet, so it's not answering any question. You're getting an Excel sheet.
Wait. When you say कि people should ask कि मुझे document बताओ, तो as a common man मैंने क्या document पूछना चाहिए?
So as
और किधर पूछना चाहिए?
So as a common man, you should actually, and this is okay. So there is the Maharashtra Regional Town Planning Act. There is also something known as the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. Right, which is similar to the 73rd, which is your Panchayat Raj Act, and 74th is your City Raj Act. Let's call it that way. Okay, it's for urban local bodies. So in that, actually, there are rules. So one of the rules is, I mean, it's not being followed. One of the rules is that there should be an environmental status report tabled by every city annually. That is a document where you can find out many things. You can find out levels of pollution. So sadly, what happens in Pune is environmental status report for Pune. So when they give pollution levels, they're not giving them ward-wise.
So when you say Pune, it is the entire district.
City.
Pune
city.
Okay. So okay. Pune city अलग होगा, PCMC Pimpri-Chinchwad city अलग होगा.
अलग है, PMRDA अलग है, right? So in this case, what happens is every city. So PCMC is also supposed to table a ESR, ESR, Environmental Status Report, right? And they are supposed to table it annually. And in that, they're supposed to give you pollution data. They're supposed to give you data on parks, kidhar hai, ye kidhar hai, wo kidhar hai, maybe not traffic, but ideally traffic should also come in that. Okay, nobody's taking traffic counts. They're using all these cameras and stuff. I have not seen any report on traffic counts. Right? There are principles of fluid mechanics that are used for traffic prediction and looking at traffic. I have not seen any report that has done this. I would like to see a report that has done this. As a planner, it is crucial for me to understand how traffic flows, what volumes of traffic flow, what modes of traffic, meaning rickshaw hai, gaadi hai, bike hai, bus hai. I want to know. But all of this information, so one big lack, if you're going to ask me this question, I'm already answering it, I guess. One big lack in the planning here in India is we do not collect that much data, right? And that data is extremely crucial to plan things out. This is, and what is happening is the planners are not given that much responsibility. Let's put that way. Which means in 2018, Shivdas Meena, Miss Honorable Shivdas Meena, who was our urban development secretary, Amrut, in the government of India, like in the center, he had written a letter saying that please, for deputy town planner, for director town planning, for all these positions, these posts, please hire people with the requisite UG, PG degrees. So they had identified, the government itself, that the planners in the cities in India are not planners. They are civil engineers. Now, I feel bad for civil engineers who are in this position because they don't have the requisite skills to plan. They are civil engineers. They know how to build things, which is beautiful. But so it's like me giving, I don't know, like a dentist ENT ka work, something like that. Okay. So a dentist is going to say, "Ye mera kaam nahi hai bhai," right? And that's what's happening. So there are a lot of civil engineers there are civil engineers who've done planning degrees. So I'm not saying all civil engineers, but the thing is that you have to have the requisite degrees to do this. This is not just a no-brainer. It's not just like, aasan hai yaar, aise hi ho sakta hai. It's not like that. So the idea is that when you plan a city, there are so many considerations. There's roads, and there's another question of various departments coordinating. So that is another big issue. Many departments don't have, there is no system to coordinate between departments. So a lot of people see this issue ki so budget कब आता है मार्च में. So budget खत्म करने के लिए Jan Feb में लोग शुरू करते हैं digging. ओके, वो डिग करता है. पहले कौन करता है? पहले रोड्स डिपार्टमेंट डिग करता है. फिर रोड्स डिपार्टमेंट डिगिंग करने के बाद वापस फिल करता है. देन रोड डिपार्टमेंट के बाद कौन आता है? से इलेक्ट्रिकल डिपार्टमेंट डिग करता है. फिर इलेक्ट्रिकल डिपार्टमेंट का काम होने के बाद फिर वाटर डिपार्टमेंट डिग करता है. फिर सुएज ड्रेनेज डिपार्टमेंट डिग करता है. सो what they're doing is they are spending the money 4 times, but they have to spend that budget. Otherwise, they don't get a budget. If you don't spend, you do not get that same amount of money back the next year. So this is like it is the season of digging in Pune from Jan to March, April, right? So what I feel is that is another thing. We need more managers, people who've learned management, right? I'm talking about project management, people management, where you can coordinate all of these activities. We were proposing actually as planners, and we've got connections with architects and everything. We were proposing that you make and with engineers, like civil engineers and stuff, we said make a U-duct in every road. It will be a one-time humongous cost, and it will be very painful one time. But all beautiful things come from a lot of pain, I guess. It'll be this thing, you make a U-duct, maybe it goes maximum 1.5 meters down, right? And it's a maximum maybe 1.2 meters wide. And it comes under, like it's along the streets, especially the big major streets. And you can have your, like at the top, you have your clean drinking water. Then you have your whatever, normal water. Then you have your drainage. Then you have your sewage at the most, like the lowest level. And you have these pipes running. So where even a technician from their department can just enter that. There's no digging involved. You already have that U-duct. You just enter, you start, you can do your maintenance. You can have on the other side of that same wall, you can have your electrical, you can have your broadband, you can have all your services running, and you make a network around Pune doing this. So this is another thing that we are saying. So there is a need for technology. So, like even planning in India today or any of these questions, technology that is available is not being used. Okay, it's available. They like construction. I am like, to like do the concretization now. Make all these UDucts. You'll have miles, hundreds of kilometers of UDucts in Pune. You could, and there's a big budget for that, right? So my thing is that do it, right? It will be better for everybody. And I mean, you have a beautifully arranged city, and that's what planning does. It the idea is to arrange the city in a particular way, to arrange that everything. See, planning is like being an event planner, but like for the world. Let's put it that way. So there is a lot of different elements that have to come together to enable this. And if the rules are not followed, those elements crumble, and that's what we are seeing. The rules have to be followed, but then the people who are supposed to ensure the rules are not followed, I don't think have the capacity to actually ensure that, because you would need thousands of engineers checking every building. So my next suggestion would be that stop giving so many building permissions. In fact, they can get more development charges out of the realtors if they make it a, what do you call it, a scarcity economy, where you say, इस साल 100 buildings होने वाली है, बस, and you guys can pay. You highest bidder gets the permission. This could be this thing. Don't quote me on it. But either way, so yeah, that's my thought.
So coming back to the thing where you said कि people should ask for document. कौन सा document कहाँ देखना चाहिए?
For various purposes, there are various documents, right? The first thing is, I think people should, without getting afraid of the authorities, they are not aliens, they are not some colonial invader or something like that. They can go to the government. See, the problem that we've got is we've got this whole fear of Sarkar, right? And I think that fear of Sarkar needs to be removed. People in Sarkar are also like us. They are citizens themselves. So we are all the same, right? The only difference is they have more information than you do. So it is your responsibility and right.
And authority also.
No, but authority given by through us, through the ages of what, through which agency, where citizens have voted for somebody and people have been hired through taxpayers' money, right? So at the end of the day, everything is a full circle. Everybody depends on everybody. So my feeling is that these people should respectfully go to government offices. These people are working for us on our behalf to manage our cities and our towns and stuff like that. That should be kept in mind. But what I feel is that they can, first of all, they can go to every department. Now, the tactic in every department is, if you have 10,000 people coming to your department, nobody is going to get anything. So that's why they have an online grievance redressal system. Now, the problem with the grievance redressal system is, if 10,000 people are sending grievances, again, they don't have the capacity. So my main thesis is the government doesn't have capacity. But I will still go on and say, you can go to your ward office. There are various administrative wards around Pune. Find out which your administrative ward is. Go to the ward office. You can meet the main ward officer. There are various departments. There is water supply, sanitation. There are various departments in that ward office. Please visit your ward office, your local ward office. All right. Then you can go to the PMC directly, which is the most powerful, right? Plus, you can go to various departments there, but they are usually not available. That is what I will say. But if you go to your corporator, please go to your corporator. Corporator depends on you for your votes. So the corporator will make it their point to help you. So I think these three are the main ways in which you can go get information. But what's more important is, now say if I'm a new buyer, so I need to, so this is what I'm surprised by actually, and many of my friends are buying flats and stuff like that, but they have never told me that which school is good is a consideration. They have kids. So if you have kids, you will normally say, which is the best school in the area? I will go to that area. Okay, everybody has this aspirational, very dumb aspirational value of ki main idhar rahunga, udhar rahunga, and the aspiration is also about tall buildings for some reason. I don't know why, right? Tall buildings are the biggest pain for everybody, right? Tall buildings are good in Mumbai. Tall buildings are good in New York. Why? Because they are surrounded by water on three sides, and so they cannot expand out. Pune can. We are radial cities. These are linear cities. So that's why they have to have tall buildings, right? Singapore is a very small area and it's a whole country. That's why it needs tall buildings. So there is a reason for tall buildings as a fad, and that's what's happening now, is not required, right? In fact, they are less humane as structures. Let's put it that way. Now, the thing is that if you are a home buyer, the first thing you have to do is you have to check whether your realtor, the guy who is selling you the land or the building or the flat, has actually done the due diligence from their side. They've paid their taxes, they've paid for their permissions, and whether they actually
So
have.
when you say realtor, somebody like me who's a property consultant or a developer?
No, a developer directly. The person who gets that final.
I was just clarifying.
No, property consultant does not get the government signature on properties.
Yes.
Right. So you have to go to your developer. You have to demand. Okay. Now another thing is, I don't know what the deal is with citizens and developer. Developer ye dev nahi hai. That person is a business person. That person is selling you a product and a service, which is a house. Right. The utility you get is life. So it's your whole life, that house. So please ensure that that house is protected. How will it be protected? If it is signed off by the government authority. You can also write letters to the city engineer cell. They will take time to answer those letters, but there is a city engineer's office. That city engineer's office takes care of every building. It gives permissions for every building.
So as far as new buildings and new home buying is concerned, there is Maharera website which gives all the documents.
Which is perfect.
Which is perfect.
But if Maharera, so okay, I'll tell you what has happened. Okay. Now, if I am buying a building and then somebody says sanction plan, according to sanction plan, your house is correct. Okay. Sanction plan is saying 2000 square feet. I actually measure my house and it's 1800 square feet. That's when the problem happens. And that's when you should be going to the city engineer, because Maharera website is where everything is just uploaded.
Yes.
Okay. But
now they have started verifying it. After that, there's some big scam happened in Dombivli, where they
gave less.
They gave order to demolish 60 buildings.
There you go. So that is one.
And they had
important.
fabricated Maharera certificates.
Wow. So that is so. I mean, nobody's surprised. So the thing is that what we have to do is to do that due diligence. There are various ways in which you can do this due diligence, and I would suggest that please do due diligence. In what sense? Look at the building, then look around the building. If you feel that this is a nice area, then be ready to pay more. Right? Just because the building is tall, don't pay more. Right? Because are there parks? Are there safe walking areas? Is there? See, ideally, there is this concept of a 15-minute city. Okay. And so in this concept of a 15-minute city, the idea is that if I am staying at this point, 15-minute radius around that point, I should be able to avail of all my services, utilities, facilities, my entertainment, my exercise, my restauranting, everything. So what has happened is this concept is extremely important in the context of India, and I'll tell you why. We have a very dense, we have very dense cities, population dense. So there is a higher chance of having one or two businesses. Sorry, not one or two. All businesses within 15 minutes of your location. So what we typically go for is Kirana Mall. Then we have medical store. Then we have Istri. Then we have Dhobi. Then we have what else? Plumber. We have electronics, hardware stores. So normally everybody has this kind of access around the city. Then you have restaurants. So if you don't have restaurants, then that means that's not being met. So you can create your own rules of what you feel should be within 15 minutes of your radius from your current location. Ideally, a school, a hospital, ideally a library if libraries are available, ideally a museum if museums are available. But what we do as planners is we try to strive to actually provide these within 15 minutes of your location. Now 15 minutes by car or by walk or by cycle is up to you. We ideally try to do it walking. So it actually, that's why people are talking about densifying cities more, because once you can walk 15 minutes and reach anything that you want, movie theater, I don't know, like parks, sports facilities. So what we feel is that is like the most ideal way of planning cities, and I think that is completely relevant for Indian cities. We are anyway having a big issue with obesity. We are having a big issue We need more access to areas to exercise. We should be walking more. Before, I'll tell you one thing, India never had this problem until about 10 years ago. And now it has blown out of proportion. So, and I'll tell you why. Because everybody, even to go 10 minutes away or 5 minutes away, takes a bike and goes. So, and I'll tell you why they take bikes, because they're lazy. But they can give a good answer. They can say, footpath hi nahi hai, main nahi ja sakta. Isliye, I'm saying we should have footpaths. I think there is something known as the URDPFI guidelines, right? URDPFI, Google it. I am not going to give the full form because I don't remember all the words. URDPFI guidelines are extremely important, but they are guidelines. They are not laws, unfortunately. But URDPFI guidelines stipulate that if you have a particular width of road, like we were talking about before, if you have a particular width of road, you should have a particular width of footpath. Right?
Nice.
And so in that way, you can have footpaths all over the place. So currently CDSA, which is my firm, we are actually working on this, how to ensure walkability in the city. We feel that walkability is important because if you, now in the case of Pune, we are getting a new brand spanking new metro system with the trains and with the, it's nice. So the thing is, now the sad fact is that though I have a nice metro system, and I really love the Pune metro system. Okay, shout out to Pune Metro. Maha Metro. So now, if I have a Pune metro system, the problem is that once I get on the metro station and to get off the metro station, it's okay. But once I'm at the bottom of the metro station, if I go up to a rickshawala, they're going to say, no, I can't go there. It will cost so much. Okay, rickshawala, please only go by meter. Do not pay rickshawalas more. Do not get desperate. You can call the cops will come and straighten them out. Because this is again rule breaking, because there is a meter system. So please follow the rickshaw meter system. You are encouraging them to misbehave when you start paying them more and more cash. Right? So now, in this sense, what we were trying to do was, the Pune metro system is actually an amazing infrastructure for a big city like Pune. The only problem that is being faced is the last mile mobility. So to access the metro station or from the metro station to get home, normally there are strategies used where we use multiple modes of transportation. The first mode of transportation is walking. Everybody should walk. Everybody should be capable of walking, according to me. Right? Unless they have some problem, like Salman has, and he's walking around with a stick these days. But other than that, for a healthy human being, you should be able to walk. Right?
वॉकिंग का प्रैक्टिस में लाना बहुत जरूरी है. आज का माइंडसेट ये हो गया है कि 2 किलोमीटर चल के आया बेचारा, 2 किलोमीटर चल के आया.
कितना?
Why this mindset?
Exactly. And so and it's so unfit. And I'll tell you, in Europe and stuff, now they are fit. 99% of it. We think कि उधर बहुत obesity नहीं है. अमेरिका में है, यूरोप में नहीं है. अमेरिका में क्यों है? Because you need a car to get everywhere. There is no walkability in America unless it's in an old big city. Even Houston, I didn't see walkability in the suburbs. So, but in Boston or New York, there was walkability because it's an old big city. So either way, but now, so we shouldn't follow that American model. See, this is another problem. We are copycatting so many things. No, we should have our own Indian model. We should be the pioneers of something. So I feel that this is one thing that we can actually start pioneering. So either way, but so for the metro, what we decided was that we are now studying every street, small street, big street, every street, and we are actually mapping it. Right? We have this app called iNagarik, which is a citizen app. Actually, citizens can also partake in mapping their city using iNagarik, and they can upload the information from below. The problem is that many citizens want to complain. We are saying, don't complain, build the data, we'll create a case, we make a plan, then we present it to the government. Don't start complaining, because the problem is the government is going to stop listening to you. They've got, Pune is 7 million people. If 7 million people start complaining at 5,000 people, what can the 5,000 people do? So this is another problem. And again, we talk about carrying coverage, but 15-minute city. So the idea is that
the iNagarik app is on Android, iOS.
It's on Android, not on iOS, but we'll get it on iOS now.
Soon.
Yeah. But we've been working more for the government using it. So now to make it more publicly available, we'll be developing an iOS app. So, no, but either way. So the idea was that now you take a metro station and say, if I have to walk from my home to the metro, I should be able to walk. So now this is what happens. people should also not forget that metro is a corridor. It's not spread across the city.
Yes.
So you might need to take a bus to get to a metro station if you stay far away.
The first mile and the last mile transportation is a big issue.
Exactly.
मुझे I am majorly into commercial real estate.
Yeah.
मुझे सारा इंक्वायरी पिछले 6 महीने में मेट्रो कॉरिडोर में आ रहा है. एंड इफ इट इज 2 किलोमीटर अवे फ्रॉम मेट्रो स्टेशन पे उतर के मेरा एम्प्लॉय मेरे ऑफिस तक आएगा कैसे इज अ बिग कंसर्न. मैं बोला उनको ये भी है कि वो अपने घर से मेट्रो स्टेशन तक कैसे गया है.
Exactly.
वो भी कंसर्न है.
Exactly. So what we are saying to even Maha Metro, and Mr. Hardikar is actually a very good administrator, a very good guy. So we've been telling them that we will do this exercise and we will give you a report. So I am actually working with about 20 interns at CDS, and what we are doing is, one, walking. Two, we are looking at walking routes, so which are your streets, small streets, big streets, all that road hierarchy. But then we are also looking at stuff like rickshaw stands. We are looking at bus stops. So are the bus stops nearby? Are there proper access? Is there proper access given to citizens? So if there's a rickshaw stand, it should kind of be off the main area of the road, main thoroughfare, so that people can safely enter the rickshaws. Are there designated stands?
Like highway के ऊपर truck base वगैरह होते हैं.
Exactly. So you have to make it safe. The other thing is, maybe you need multiple rickshaw stands. One on this side, one on that side.
Yeah.
So we are planning that whole thing out. Plus, we are doing an exercise in the street design. So I feel this nicely layers over even this concept of 15-minute, that if I can walk, so first I have to be able to walk. If there's no footpath, it's gone. So I think that is the first requirement. I think walkability is also an equalizer. It doesn't matter whether you're elite or not elite. Okay, you have to walk. So I think it is a beautiful way of bringing everybody on a level playing field.
Very good.
And I think plus health as a very big thing, like doctors these days say you should be walking 5 kilometers at least per day.
10,000 steps.
Yeah. So that's why we are saying, as a city, as a pioneering city, Pune can actually try to implement this, saying that we are a 100% walkable city. And I think real estate values will go up with that. I think if you can say everything is available within 15 minutes, that's one. So I think even the buyer of the house should demand this, because then that the real estate developers will start going to the corporators and saying, "Ye chahiye logo ko." Right? So I think this becomes a movement like that, where if citizens demand, so it all starts from citizens. It starts and ends with citizens.
तो जब गाड़ियां बढ़ी तो रोड बढ़ने लगे.
Correct.
पार्किंग का रिक्वायरमेंट नॉर्म्स बढ़ने लगा. When you start walking,
It
the
will change.
footpath requirement will start.
Exactly. And the more you demand walking, so I'll tell you, it's the most pleasurable thing if you can walk safely. Sadly, my mom will find it hard to walk on these streets because there is no footpaths or something. She's 73. But if we get the right infrastructure, if we spend enough in the right infrastructure, you can actually enable, and I think this is another thing that we do when we plan. I've not mentioned it before. See, we ensure that the elderly, the people with disabilities, and children have to be safe. That is what makes a livable city. So if these three categories can move around, access facilities, access services, they can be safe, the parents or anybody is not worried about them, then you have actually planned a successful plan for a city. If elderly, persons with disabilities and children are safe.
असली डेवलपमेंट तब होगा जब सिटी की प्लानिंग हमारे जीने का तरीका बदलेगी, और ये तरीका बदलने के लिए पुणे के लोग यानी हमको और सरकार को एक साथ आना होगा. आपके पुणे के टाउन प्लानिंग को लेकर कुछ सजेशन होंगे तो ज़रूर कमेंट करें. और एक इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज़, बीच में पावर कट की वजह से ये पॉडकास्ट आधा शूट हुआ है, तो अगर आप वीडियो में यहाँ तक आए हो, मतलब यू रियली केयर फॉर योर सिटी. पुणे के बारे में अगले एपिसोड में और भी बहुत ज़्यादा वैल्यूएबल डिस्कशन हमने की है, आपने ज़रूर देखना चाहिए.